My ex-boyfriend humiliated me in front of his friends and dumped me at a restaurant. Hi, I'm Sarah Chen. I'm 26, and what happened to me last month still feels surreal. I keep replaying it, wondering if it really went down that way, but my empty savings account and the ice cream containers in my trash say it definitely did. I'd been dating Jake Morrison for almost 2 years, not some random hookup. We had our thing going. Weekend farmers market trips, awkward game nights with friends. Even that disaster pottery class where we somehow made ashtrays instead of bowls. Sure, things weren't picture perfect, but I thought we were heading somewhere real. We'd even looked at apartments in Portland together. Jake had his moments, though, leaving dirty dishes everywhere, being glued to his phone during our Netflix binges, dropping little comments about my appearance, like that color washes you out, or maybe try straightening your hair sometime. I told myself he was just being honest. So when he texted me asking if I wanted to join him in some work buddies for dinner, I was genuinely surprised. He'd always kept his work life separate, saying it wasn't smart to mix business with personal stuff. I got so excited I blew half my paycheck on a new dress and spent 3 hours getting ready. Fresh blowout, perfect winged eyeliner, the works. The place was one of those fancy downtown Seattle spots where they don't list prices and the portions look like art installations. Should have been my first warning sign. Jake was already there with 2 colleagues, Brett and Cameron. He barely glanced up when I walked over. It's just a half-hearted wave and a flat, "You're here." I was maybe 3 minutes late thanks to finding parking in that nightmare area. Then came his first shot. He looked me over and said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "Interesting choice of outfit." Brett snickered. Cameron stared at his phone. I laughed it off, asking if there was some dress code I'd missed. Jake just shrugged and went back to his appetizer. For the next hour, they talked shop while I sat there like furniture. Every time I tried adding something, Jake either interrupted or explained why I was wrong. When I shared a story about managing inventory at the bookstore, he dismissed it with, "She doesn't really understand how real business works." 3 years running a store, and apparently I still don't qualify as real business to him. Eventually, Brett asked how we met. I started explaining how my roommate Emma introduced us, but Jake cut me off. Yeah, Emma felt sorry for her. I was basically doing charity work. He actually laughed. My stomach hit the floor. The real story. Emma had warned me Jake could be self-centered, but said he had potential. Spoiler alert, he didn't. I excused myself to the bathroom before I could cry in public. While hiding in the stall, I saw Jake had posted on Instagram from the restaurant, captioned "Guys Night Out," like I was invisible. Emma was calling, but I ignored it, splashed cold water on my face, and decided to just survive until dessert. When I got back, they'd gone quiet. My salad, literally the cheapest thing on the menu, arrived, and Jake made some crack about preparing for hibernation, followed by bold choice considering your figure. Death by 1,000 cuts. Then the check came. Jake glanced at it and slid it across to me. I thought he was just showing me the total. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You know what, Sarah? This isn't working out." Right there in the middle of the restaurant, in front of his work friends. After 2 years together, I couldn't move. "You're ending things here now." He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and delivered the line that still makes me nauseous. Someone. Like, you should be thankful I dated you at all. You're not exactly winning any prizes. All 3 of them walked out laughing. The $270 bill loaded with their expensive steaks and cocktails was mine to handle. I paid it, fighting back tears. Then made it to my car before calling Emma. She showed up at my place with Ben & Jerry's and wine, ready to plan his downfall. That's when she dropped the bomb that changed everything. Jake wasn't the marketing director he claimed to be. He was basically a glorified intern who made copies and scheduled meetings. Those important business trips. Fake that big presentation. He bragged about, he held up poster boards while his boss talked. His entire professional identity was fiction. 2 years I'd been dating someone who'd built his whole persona on lies. And that night, with Emma's help, I decided I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. I was going to make sure Jake's truth came out in the most unexpected way possible. The next morning felt like recovering from surgery. My apartment looked like a crime scene. Takeout containers everywhere, clothes thrown around, work stuff still by the door. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Jake's voice telling me I should be grateful he bothered with me. I tried staying off social media, but by Thursday, curiosity won. First thing I saw was Jake at the gym, flexing in a mirror with the caption leveled up. Know your value. The absolute nerve. That evening, Emma came over with Thai food. While we ate, she showed me texts from Riley, someone who worked with Jake. Apparently, Jake had been telling everyone he dumped me because I was marriage-obsessed and couldn't handle his success. Me, the same person who'd been covering dinner tabs the last few months because he was between opportunities. Then Riley shared the real tea. Jake was on thin ice at work for taking credit for someone else's project. Those late office nights were him fixing mistakes before anyone noticed. I was still processing when my phone rang. It was Linda, Jake's mom. She'd always been sweet to me, remembered my birthday, asked about my family, so I picked up. She said, Jake told them we'd had a small fight, but everything was fine. She was calling to confirm I'd be at his birthday dinner this Saturday and reminded me about the big announcement he said we'd be making. Big announcement. We hadn't spoken since the restaurant disaster. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Emma nearly choked on her pad thai. After I hung up, we sat there stunned. Then Emma grinned. You're going. She was absolutely right. Jake's family had been nothing but kind to me, and they deserved the truth. But I wasn't showing up to cause drama. I was going to let the truth unfold naturally in a way Jake couldn't spin or control. The next day, I met Riley for coffee. We'd never hung out before, but he was easy to talk to. He confirmed Jake's director title was really him supervising to college interns, and that his famous presentation was just clicking through slides while his boss presented. Halfway through our conversation, Riley's phone buzzed. His manager needed him to drop off some contracts Saturday night, same time as Jake's dinner. And that's when inspiration struck. Riley could swing by Jake's parents' house mid-dinner, paperwork in hand. Perfect timing. Friday night, Emma helped me pick an outfit. I wanted to look good, not for Jake, but for myself. We settled on a navy blue dress Jake once called too bold, which I now realized was his way of keeping me small. I barely slept. My brain kept running scenarios of everything that could go wrong. What if his family sided with him? What if I froze up completely? By Saturday afternoon, I'd chewed my nails down to nothing. At noon, Jake texted for the first time since our breakup. Looking forward to tonight. Dressed nicely. My parents are excited. I didn't respond. Let him wonder. By 6 p.m., I was parked outside his parents' house in the suburbs. I sat there for a minute, hands shaking, heart racing, like I'd just run a marathon. Then I thought about Jake at that table, spinning lies about me, and my determination kicked in. When I rang the doorbell, Mr. Morrison answered with a huge smile and welcomed me inside. The smell of Linda's famous pot roast and fresh dinner rolls filled the air. For a second, I almost felt bad about what I was planning. Almost I walked into the living room, and there he was, beer in hand, telling some story to his cousin Alex. The moment he saw me, his face went white. He recovered quickly, though, walking over with this fake smile. You actually showed up, he whispered through gritted teeth. Oh, we need to talk privately. I smiled sweetly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. I wouldn't miss your birthday, especially with that big news you mentioned to everyone. Linda's face lit up. His sister Maya perked up with interest. His dad made some joke about finally getting grandchildren. Jake's jaw clenched tight. We all sat down for dinner. My phone buzzed under the table. Text from Riley, 10 minutes away. Jake leaned over and hissed, "What game are you playing?" I kept smiling. Oh, you'll find out soon enough. Game on. Dinner started like every tense family meal you've ever witnessed. The pot roast sat steaming in the middle, dinner rolls still warm, and a salad that nobody touched except out of politeness. Jake kept steering conversation away from me, launching into work stories where every sentence began with "in my position" or "when you're running things." His eyes kept darting to me, silently warning me to stay quiet. I just passed the mashed potatoes and smiled, watching that little vein in his forehead twitch every time I opened my mouth. Linda beamed proudly, going on about his recent promotion. My fork froze mid-bite. Promotion. He'd really doubled down on the lies. Jake puffed out his chest, talking about leading his team and how upper management was grooming him for bigger things. I nodded like I was hearing about some celebrity I'd never met, letting him dig himself deeper. Then Mr. Morrison, who's usually quiet, asked about some major client Jake claimed to have landed. Jake launched into corporate word salad strategic initiatives, core competencies, leveraging synergies. The kind of known answer you give when you're trying to sound important but saying absolutely nothing. Maya caught my eye from across the table. She's the family skeptic, the one who will fact-check a restaurant review mid-meal, or raised eyebrows. Said exactly what I was thinking. This guy is full of it. That's when Linda leaned forward, all excited. So what's this big news? Are you two moving in together? Getting engaged? Starting a business? Jake choked on his drink. His grandmother, who has zero filter, jumped in. Well, Jake said you were apartment hunting. Is that happening? The most we'd ever discussed living together was him suggesting I donate some clothes so his sneakers had more room in my closet. Before Jake could redirect, I leaned back casually. Speaking of dinners, remember that restaurant last week? When you hung out with Brett and Cameron? His face drained like a broken sink. And then, perfect timing, the doorbell rang. Linda opened it and gasped with delight. Riley, what a wonderful surprise. Jake's eyes went wide with pure panic. Riley stepped inside holding a manila folder, looking completely professional. He apologized for interrupting, but said Jake needed to sign some urgent paperwork for Monday morning. Linda, being the perfect hostess, insisted he stay for cake later. Jake tried steering him toward the front door, but Mr. Morrison stopped him. We can handle business here. We're all family. I'd saved the chair next to me on purpose. Riley sat down. Jake gripped his fork like he might snap it in half. Mr. Morrison asked about that major presentation Jake had been bragging about for weeks. Riley glanced at me, then back at Jake and said smoothly, "It went really well." Our director presented and Jake assisted with the materials. The room went dead silent. Mr. Morrison frowned. That's not how Jake described it to me. Jake forced a laugh, waving it off like Riley was confused. But Maya wasn't letting it slide. So Riley, what's Jake's exact title again? You could have heard a pin drop. Riley looked at Jake, who was silently begging him not to answer, then looked at me. I gave the tiniest nod. Administrative assistant, Riley said clearly. A collective. Gasp went around the table. Maya muttered. I knew something was off. Jake's smile cracked completely. He stammered about multiple roles and complex organizational structures, but the questions kept coming. Promotions that never existed. A corner office that was fiction. A team that was actually 2 college students. And I hadn't even started my part of the story yet. The longer Jake squirmed, the more I could feel the energy in the room shifting. His father looked disappointed. Maya was practically gloating. Even Grandma had stopped eating to watch the show. That's when Maya looked straight at me. So Sarah, about that restaurant you mentioned. Jake's fork clattered against his plate. We don't need to get into ... I cut him off, still smiling. I'd be happy to share. And I did. Every single detail. How he barely acknowledged me when I arrived, mocked my dress, interrupted me constantly, made comments about my body in front of his colleagues. How, after 2 years together, he dumped me in the middle of a crowded restaurant loud enough for strangers to stare. Then left me with a $270 bill that included his expensive steak and their overpriced drinks. Jake tried interrupting, but Mr. Morrison shut him down with a firm letter finish. That voice could freeze water. Jake attempted damage control. She's exaggerating. She embarrassed me in front of my colleagues. I raised an eyebrow. By existing. Because I didn't laugh at your mean jokes. He scrambled for excuses. Teaching her financial responsibility. His grandmother actually laughed out loud. Boy, please. Riley, who'd been quiet until now, leaned forward. I can back up her story. Jake bragged about it at work, even showed us texts from Cameron saying he really put her in her place. Jake glared at Riley. You're a backstabbing traitor. By the time Linda returned with birthday cake, the tension was suffocating. She set it down and asked what she'd missed. Nobody answered until Mr. Morrison said quietly, "We need to have a serious talk about honesty, son." That's when Jake completely lost it. He shoved back from the table so hard his chair scraped the floor. You're all letting her poison you against me? You're jealous of my success. What success? Maya shot back. He knocked over his water glass, pointed at me, and yelled, "Someone like you should be grateful I even gave you a chance." Linda gasped. His grandmother muttered something under her breath that definitely wasn't church appropriate. I stayed calm. The only thing I'm grateful for is finally seeing who you really are. And just like that, Jake stormed out, slamming the front door so hard one of Linda's family photos fell off the mantel and the glass cracked. The strangest part? The room felt lighter after he left. Linda apologized repeatedly, her voice shaking. Mr. Morrison looked like a man who just realized his son wasn't who he thought he'd raised. Maya helped clean up the spilled water while Riley quietly said, "I'm sorry you went through all that, but I'm glad the truth is finally out." Then Linda did something unexpected. She insisted I stay for cake. So there we sat, Jake's family, his coworker, and me, eating birthday cake without the birthday boy. And somehow it wasn't awkward at all. I thought that night was the end of it. I'd said my piece. His family knew the truth, and Jake had stormed off to whatever fantasy land he lived in. I was completely wrong. Sunday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. 15 missed calls from Linda, Maya, Riley, and numbers I didn't recognize. My heart sank. For a moment, I thought something terrible had happened. When I called Linda back, she sounded exhausted. Apparently, after leaving dinner, Jake had gone on an all-night drinking binge, shown up hammered at his ex-girlfriend's apartment at 3 a.m., ranting about how I'd ruined his life. She called Maya to come collect him, but it got worse. He'd been blowing up people's phones all night, threatening Riley, posting unhinged Facebook rants about being surrounded by backstabbers, and even sending my address to Cameron with a message, saying he was going to make her pay. That last part was why Linda was calling frantically. Cameron had some decency and forwarded the message to her. Within an hour, Linda and Maya were at my apartment with coffee and pastries, looking both furious and mortified. We sat at my small kitchen table as they filled me in on Jake's history of creating better versions of himself. In college, he'd claimed to be on the football team after getting cut, and once bragged about dating the homecoming queen. He didn't even know his name. Then my doorbell started ringing aggressively. Jake's voice slurred and angry. "I know you're in there. Open this door." Riley jumped up like he was ready for a fight, but I was already calling building security. Jake escalated from ringing to pounding to actually kicking my door. By the time the guard arrived, half my floor knew something was happening. Security told him to leave or they'd call police. Stormed off to the parking lot, still yelling threats. Linda decided to go down herself with Maya backing her up. They ended up calling Mr. Morrison to come pick him up. After they left, Riley stayed a while and we finished the bottle of wine I'd been saving for something special. If this didn't qualify, nothing would. Later, Emma came over and spent the night just in case Jake decided to come back. He didn't. Over the following weeks, The consequences were swift and brutal. He got fired after missing 3 days of work and sending inappropriate emails to coworkers. He moved back in with his parents briefly before, according to Linda, getting sent to live with his uncle in another state. He tried contacting me a few more times. Angry voicemails, fake social media accounts, all blocked immediately. Last time I saw him was at Whole Foods 2 months later. I was comparing pasta prices. He was holding a basket with just energy drinks. He spotted me, froze completely, then turned around and walked out. Abandoning his basket now. Months later, I'm thriving. Actually thriving. I redecorated my apartment, got rid of anything that reminded me of him, and kept some unexpected friendships from the whole experience. Riley and I grab coffee occasionally, and Maya checks in regularly. Do I have trust issues now? Absolutely. But I'm not angry anymore. Anything? I'm grateful I learned the truth before I got in any deeper. Because if Jake thought I should have, been grateful to date him. The only gratitude I have is for the night I walked into his birthday dinner and watched him sit in the wreckage of his own lies. Some people build their entire existence on fiction. But reality always finds a way to the surface. Jake thought he could control the narrative. But in the end, his own words, his own behavior, and his own family exposed him completely. And I walked away with my self-respect intact. Someone's ever tried making you feel small? Remember this story. You don't need anyone's permission to be valuable. Your worth isn't up for debate or negotiation. Thanks for watching. If this story kept you hooked, smash that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. And share it with someone who needs reminding that revenge doesn't always have to be loud to be effective. I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what part of this story surprised you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss. Until next time, keep your confidence high and your standards even higher.